Cosmetic dermatologist in Miami, Florida, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Oligio X and how skin tightening has evolved and how we can combine lasers with this to even elevate our results. Okay, so the first are my disclosures. I'm a KOL and speaker for these major laser companies, and then the first we'll start with the Oligio X key features. And this thing is powerful. It's got 400 watts. It's got a nice dual mode where it's G or X mode. Most important thing for me is the comfort, and so this Oligio has real-time impedance feedback on every single shot. So that's very impressive for a monopolar RF device. Excellent treatment effect. You get to do deeper layer and long-lasting heat, but to me the most important thing is comfort. And this machine has stronger cooling system. That's incredible. And that's really what makes it special, the new intensive cooling system. So with the button press, you get cooling, you get pre-cooling, you get parallel cooling, and you get post-cooling. What does that mean? Comfortable and safer treatments. And so here's an example of the G mode. The RF is when you want to go superficial. The G mode, you'll have button cooling, pre-cooling, you'll have some cooling between the pulses and some post-cooling. And then when you want to go real deep, that's the X mode. And it has 11 cooling pulses. So you get one with the button, 3 before, 1 with each single shot after, and 3 post-cooling, allowing you to deliver energy deep and comfortably for your patient. And so if you take anything from this presentation of monopolar RF, it's remember this slide. And Wontech makes it easy. With their G mode and their X mode, think like this. X mode goes deep, G mode superficially. So with X mode, you can see the heat, how deep it goes and how long it lasts. And the G mode superficially and the short duration. And with those, you have the ultimate skin tightening device. You can reach deep and superficially in the same device. And more importantly, you can mix it. We actually have protocols that have been developed by Wontech. GXG is probably the most popular, where you'll use G mode to preheat the dermis. That allows X mode to go deeper, and then you use G mode to lock in the heat, allowing you to complete your treatments fast. It has an innovative graphic interface, in which case you know when you're in X mode and you're in G mode. You know X mode is dark and G mode is bright, making it safe and making sure you know what mode you're in. And the handpiece, very comfortable. You put the treatment tip, you got your insert buttons. It's got a shot button, but the Oligio X is awesome because it has an auto mode. So you just have to hit the shot button once, and then it keeps going. You can control the energies on the handpiece itself, and you can even change modes on the handpiece. Now, the handpiece that are currently available are your face tip. You got 4 centimeters squared. You have an eye tip and a body tip that's coming soon. So you got an all-encompassing monopolar RF device. Here is its monopolar radio frequency. The frequency is 6.78 megahertz, which is the gold standard for skin tightening. It goes a full 400 watts. You can change the levels by 0.5. For me, my favorite is the G mode, X mode, how simple they make it, superficial, deep. You have added vibration for patient comfort, the treatment tips, as well as the cryogen cooling. And so we'll talk a little bit about information. What are the indications for Oligio? Lifting and tightening, skin rejuvenation, wrinkle reduction, everything. These are what patients are asking for today. And so the way it works, monopolar radio frequency, I'll make it simple. It uses electrical energy, and that gently heats the skin and promotes tightening. The way it works is the energy travels from the handpiece tip to the grounding pad. And Oligio X, like I said, uses the 6.78 megahertz to create a deep heat 40 to 60 degrees in your tissue. And so here it is. Here's your Oligio tip, and it's going through the skin into the grounding pad. That excites the water molecules in your skin. Through friction, that creates heat. So you're taking electrical energy and turning into heat energy. And the way that works, that you deliver heat into the tissue, that will create a micro-inflammatory phase in the fibroblasts. That induces ongoing process of tissue repair and fibroblast activity that will generate new collagen, and the skin condition will be improved. It's a very simple treatment procedure. First, you check for contraindication, make sure there's no metal, implants, or anything like that. Then you cleanse, remove any metal accessories. You'll attach a return pad, connect the cable, you apply the fluid, and do your treatments very fast, like 30 minutes for the full face. And then you just do cleansing and post-care. Literally, I've had it done, and my patients love it. You walk out like normal. Really, you just put sunscreen on after. And this is how we really maximize the treatment effect. I actually use no numbing and get incredible results just because of that cooling. The cooling is incredible. But you want the patient to go to hot but tolerable. The goal is to heat the dermis. You don't need to coagulate it. You don't need to go to high temperatures where that becomes very painful. You go to hot but tolerable. You adjust the energy. Each patient's different. So what you're going to do is you're going to find the energy where they get a level 3. And when you're there, you're going to see the treatment goes fast and it's super comfortable. And now I'll go over some clinical cases of Oligio X cases from the company, and I'll add which Wontech lasers I would use in combination and how they will improve the result. And here's a case of a GXG protocol. You can see immediately after you get a tightening effect, patients love that. I have patients that see the tightening effect and then, let them bring a friend in, because when they see that tightening effect, they're signing up next. And so you see increase in the cheek volume, and you can see after 4 weeks, the improvement. In this case, I would probably add Pastel Pro to increase a little bit more collagen. And then I would add a Pico Alex to help with the pigmentation. And that's what's really going to separate your clinic when you're able to combine laser treatments. You're able to give results nobody else can. And, word of mouth is what grows when you do deliver results like that. And so you can see here from the side, the improvement in the jawline. And you'll have the improvement in the jawline there. Perfect. And so here we have another case. This was a protocol. You can see immediately after the nice tightening at 4 weeks. You can look under the eyes. Probably with this case, what I would do is add a little bit of Pico Alex to even the pigment tone. Pico Alex has no downtime. It's a 755 Pico, super comfortable. Patients love it. And then you can add on Pastel Pro to build some collagen through LIOBs. Here's another case that we have. You got the immediate effect, and then at 4 weeks, even better, you can see the jawline tightening. In this case, she's got a little bit of redness, she's got a little bit of pigmentation, and so I would add a V laser to treat that redness, and I would add a Pico Alex to treat the overall and even the skin tone. So then you'd have skin tightening plus a more even skin tone. And then here we have another one. This is incredible. You can see the tightening in the jawline, the contouring, a more V shape, and that's immediately after. For sure, I would add a Pico Alex here to get rid of those lenticles, even the tone, and then you can add like a Pastel Pro if you wanted to build a little bit more collagen, get a little bit more textural improvement. And then we have here another contouring. You see improvement in the jawline. In this case, I would probably add Pico Alex just to even the skin tone. And if you ever want to add more collagen, you can always add the Pastel Pro. That's what I tend to do in my clinic. And then here you can see that there's different modes. This patient with thicker skin, they did just X mode, and you can see the tightening in the skin. You can really see it here in his jawline improvement. In this case, he has a little bit of redness, so I would add a V laser, and then I would add a Pico Alex to help even the pigment tone. And I'll show you some of my cases with a combination. Here is about a month after. This is an Oligio X and a Pastel Pro for the LIOBs and to build more collagen. You can see the improvement in the cheek area, improvement in the jawline contour, and you can really see here on the side, you can see how it kind of goes in, the improvement in the neck. And this was a comfortable treatment. That's what my patients love. I'm in Miami. We have no downtime. We got to enjoy the Miami sun. So you walk out of my clinic looking normal, minimal pain, super comfortable. You can see the other side. And then I'll show you an example of someone.
Excellent. There are certain lasers that have a reputation of like having issues. I've owned these lasers. We do a lot of laser cases. We've not, knock on wood, had any downtime with a Wontech device. The devices are built really well, and this is my own personal experience. Aside from me, speaking tonight, I truly think their lasers are very well built. Their servicing is excellent. When it's time to come, there's a tech, he comes in, they get it done, and it's ready to go. But these devices are really built like a tank. Take your favorite vehicle that we all know, and it drives for 25 years. This is that vehicle. I mean, it's just.
And now we're a major laser center, and I don't think that would have been possible without Wontech. I mean, because the devices just work. I used to work at other clinics. We used to use other lasers and they break down all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. And you just can't build a practice like that. You need a company that builds stable stuff and that the technology is advanced, right? There's a lot of technology out there. It's confusing. But, Wontech, they have what works.
In my office, when I'm acquiring a new device, I think, what are my patient needs? What are people asking for? In my case, for the V laser, I needed something for rosacea. It just wasn't cutting it. I was sending all my cases down the street to a person doing IPL, and IPL has its own issues. Again, like Dr. Gaitan very astutely observed, we're trying to get focused treatments here. Medicine is precision. Precision medicine is the future. I'm sorry. You want to know what you're hitting again, which is why I wanted to kind of talk about some of the chromophores and things in my lecture. And I some of the technical things get a little bit boring, but with lasers, you should educate yourself. What are you treating? Because form follows function. If you know what you're targeting, you can target that precise thing. With these Wontech devices has changed the game for me. Now we do combination packages. We say, hey, we're going to target, what are your concerns? Well, I don't like this. I don't like this. Well, great. We have these couple devices we can pair together. We have, this. I don't overcomplicate things. We just have a package. This is the package. It's going to be 3 sessions, and we use the 2 devices. And
this year we have so many devices that it was getting too complex for our patients, so we just made a laser membership, and that's been incredible. And you'll see that when you get laser patients, they're loyal, they stick around, they love this stuff. I tell all my patients, these lasers are like exercise. You do them routinely, every year you do them. So once you have a laser patient, aging unfortunately doesn't stop. But now we have lasers that can fight back. We can do it comfortably. We can do it with no downtime. It's really changed my practice. With the membership model, patients are able to get access to all the lasers. And so, if you're I started with one laser, okay? And most of us are all going to start with one laser. So you start with one laser, you have your patients, what's the problem you want to solve? You get that laser. The beautiful thing about Wontech, like he said, they have everything that you need. And so from my first laser, I needed another laser. And so once you find a good company, lasers that work, services that work, finding the second laser is easy because you already have someone that you trust. And that's how I was able to grow so fast. I started my practice 3 years ago, and now we're a major laser center. And I don't think that would have been possible without Wontech. I mean, because the devices just work. I used to work at other clinics. We used to use other lasers and they break down all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. And you just can't build a practice like that. You need a company that builds stable stuff and that the technology is advanced, right? There's a lot of technology out there. It's confusing. But, Wontech, they have what works.
Yeah. And I think to echo what you're saying, sometimes when you're getting a laser, you're like, oh, how can I make this thing fit into my office? Don't buy a laser like that. Look at the problem you have in your office and solve that problem. Well, it's like, what are your patients looking for? Once you get that first device, the way I think about it is, that device starts producing, it starts paying itself off. Once that device gets to a tipping point where the energy has been built, then you take it and you